golly gosh, I'm excited today. We are doing what the kids are calling a live stream, what used to be called on multiple networks a simulcast. Look it up. You can Google it. It's cool. I am so excited because today we get to meet with my buddy, Brian Patacca. And Brian and I were just discussing our choices of colors for shirts. And he doesn't believe me, but I actually have a safety. I just got these literally over the weekend and washed them, and I haven't used them yet, but for my podcast. Safety orange, your fluorescent yellowish green thing, a pure safety yellow shirt, and just so much about this is frightening, and yet very convenient for those of us who create content online. We're already getting comments and questions.
Oh, great.
For today's session, Brian. First of all, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I just came back from a little mini vacation with my partner to other side of the country to Cape Cod and spent more time in the sun than I should have, and it feels so good. So
good.
I'm happy to be back.
Are you saying you're burnt?
I'm a little sunburned, and I feel like if I come back from a vacation not a little bit sunburned, don't tell my doctor this, and I feel like I wasn't on vacation. So you have just a tiny little bit of a sunburn feels good to me. So don't tell anyone that I said that. Use SPF.
Yeah, absolutely. I would do that if I were you. Listen, so I want to thank you real quick for doing this somewhat exclusive, super secret, pinky swear session with us.
Yeah.
This is something that really gives actors and voice talent a lot of inner pain, a lot of inner tension, and a lot of question marks. A lot of imposter syndrome pops up. Am I good enough to have an agent? Are they not talking to me because I don't have any credit? There's so many questions around this.
Yeah.
And when I watch one of my VO Heroes pros take your session, your free Make Agents Want You session, and get amazing results from just the free stuff. Yeah. It makes me so happy because there are so many people out there right now looking at little things that pop up in their Insta feed that say, hey, create an online course, make money in your underwear, millions of dollars all night long, blah, blah, blah. But when you look at what Brian has done over the years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of actors have taken a moment, taken a breath, and thought this through with Brian's help. And so what I want to talk to you today about, and we've already got comments before we even started going on the air, we already just got comments and questions about this whole notion of finding representation, finding an agent, finding a manager. The number one question that I got, because I asked people before we started, when I was letting people know we were going to do this today, I said, hey, listen, if you've got a question and you can't make it tomorrow, please reply to this and I'll ask Brian for you. And 13 people sent me questions. Okay. Every single one of the questions was exactly the same.
Oh.
And it represents my tribe. It represents my people. I teach voiceover. And so I'm just going to grab one of the representative ones, Jocelyn, who says, does this work? And I'm assuming what you do work for VO as well as for theatrical agents. And we've talked about this before. You and I actually got together, we huddled, and we did a thing that's going to be part of all this, and you're going to talk about it. But so yes or no, Your Honor, please direct the witness to answer the question.
Yes. So great question. So does this work for voiceover agents as well as theatrical agents? So the process that I'm going to teach you at the Make Agents Want You webinar that David's got the link there for you to enroll in works for every type of agent you could ever want in the history of the world. So far, it's proven true. The one caveat I'll add to that is literary. I do a different approach for literary agent, because everybody else, it works for that. There is some magic that David talked about. So I'll just pull the curtain back a little bit so you all hear about that, which is that David and I did teach this how to exactly apply this training for voiceover agents so you can go out and really make it happen for yourself. And that's one of the bonuses that come with if you decide to enroll. But what you need to know in the free masterclass is the first thing we need to do, and this way, so I'm grateful you having me here, David, and the way you started this is we need to be willing to think about representation in a different way. And that is the most important piece, which is letting go of the like all the approval we did or didn't get from mommy and daddy, and putting all of our career in their hands, and that they're
Oh
the
my God.
open the door for us, right? And that's where the masterclass, I think, starts to pierce the veil on letting go of some of that thinking. And that's why it works for all of the places. Now, there may be different, like, what are the exact things that I put inside of this email or that I put inside of the things that I send them that will be a little bit different. And there's plenty of time during this, the masterclass. I'll be there to answer every single question. So once you get the training in there, you can ask me, okay, so what do I need to send here? What's the difference here? So I'll be there to answer every single question about that. But I just want to make sure you hear the answer to the question is yes, it does work for both. And you're going to hear me talking a lot to the actor part of yourself. So just know that it is transmutable to the voiceover career.
Great.
Yeah.
For those of you that are watching live, please feel free, ask your questions in the comments below. And for those of you that are watching the replay, do the same thing, but please make sure that you tag me. And if you're friends with Brian on whatever channel you're watching on, tag him so
Great.
we know that you've asked the question after the fact. If you have questions or comments, first, let me just get you into the habit of posting below what we're talking about. Where are you watching from? Where are you plying your trade as a voice talent or as an actor? Not everybody's here in Los Angeles. Not everybody's out in Pasadena with the wild peacocks.
That's me.
Yeah. Not everybody's in New York. Not everybody is in Atlanta. There are people all over the country and in fact, all over the world that what Brian has to say is going to be useful for, no matter what you're doing. Especially in the world of voiceover, just real briefly, in our world, you can have more than one agent. And in fact, it's kind of an expected thing these days that you have a home base agent and you have other agents. And what I love is when I presented this to Brian a couple of years ago and I said, hey, there's a little bit of a difference. But he's like, wow, all right, let's do something about this. Let's do something about this. And this notion of the difference between getting the information and doing something with the information is what I really think sets people apart when it comes to moving forward in your career. Because you can have a bucket list of all kinds of things that you're going to do, that you have the goals to do. And then you have to say to yourself, okay, now that I have this knowledge, am I actually going to take that first step and do something with it? How often do you see people who are stunted in their growth, stunted in their progress, because they simply are just too frightened to do something with what they learned from you?
Oh, so I appreciate you asking this question. Two things. First things first is it is confronting to hear a new way to reach out to representation. And so there has to be a willingness to say, listen, I don't have to believe what Brian is teaching me right now, but I have to be willing to hear it. So I kind of want to put that as the first piece here, because I expect you to have resistance around reaching out to representation in a new way. Voiceover, theatrical, all the different commercial, all of it, right? To have it, because there's going to be like, oh, we're not going to just reduce myself to the receipts of what I've accomplished in my career. I'm actually going to put myself out there in a way that makes people understand my story. And so that can bring a lot of resistance up. So that's when people can say, oh, I'm not going to take this action because I liked it better when I got to say by not taking action, like it's their fault that I'm not successful.
It was so much easier, right?
Yeah, it was so much easier when they needed to let me know, they needed to discover me as I'm like, what am I doing? Talking to my microphone at home and not telling them I exist, right?
Yep.
And so the resistance that comes up, I know one of the ways that we help, like, first of all, resistance is normal. I don't want to give it a bad rap. I think resistance and skepticism are two of the greatest learning tools that a lot of us have. We run it through our own differential of like, do I trust this? How much can I trust this? Let me try to put it in action. And once I see it work a little bit, then I'll say more yes to it. Especially you and I know this, David, in a business where there can be slimy toads preying on actors' hopes and dreams and prayers to take their money, right? Or whatever, or take their time or take their attention. And so I think skepticism and resistance are some of the ways we learn and also some of the ways we protect ourselves. So one of the things that I try to help in this process is creating accountability, which is like, what are you going to get done by when? And then also creating an accountability partner or a group. So one of the things that's important around this is a class is a group experience, sure, but you, the attendee, is having an individual experience. So what can I help you as an individual to take with you when that class ends so that you feel more empowered and not just daunted by what you've learned, right? So, oh my gosh, this is such a great thing. I don't think I can ever touch it, right? So part of where I think some of that comes from is what's stuck in your craw from the learning you got, what's going to keep you from getting it done. And so ask a question, raise your hand, tell me, Brian, I didn't believe that. That's BS. There's no way that can work. Or I don't understand why you said this is the way to do that. Help me. I can help you in those kind of conversations, so you're more willing to take the next step forward. Inside of the course, of course, we set people up with accountability partners and all of that. So there's someone else holding them accountable besides me. But I just really also think that I think it's unfair for a creative person to believe that accountability is a one-person job, and to have someone else that they're paired with, or a friend that they're doing that with, or a coach who's working with them continuously, who's helping to pull them along. Because like I said, as resistance is, it's part of the, you're saying yes to resistance. If you're saying yes to doing something a new way, you're saying yes to your baggage coming up. There will be a time when it gets in the way. And that's why I think it's one of the things that I've built inside of this. And I talk about this a lot. I think some of your people listening may know this or not, is that I'm a non-denominational reverend, which means all spiritualities, no religion, no dogma, no doctrine.
Yes,
but
Father.
Yes, Father. Reverend would be better than Father, because then I think there we go.
Reverend.
Yes, Reverend. Yes, Reverend. Yes. Is self-care inside of this. I think that self-care is a huge, when you're putting yourself out there, remember that every email you're sending out has a little wish within it for someone to say yes to you. And to imagine that your one little body on this swiftly tilting planet can sustain that as you send email after email after email isn't fair without taking care of yourself. And so that's a big piece that I also build into this process, I'd say.
Yeah. So you hear all the time, some people, usually people who don't have an agent or a manager, saying, oh, you don't need an agent or a manager. You can get through in this business. You can get by without representation. There's plenty of ways to, get self-submissions and all that sort of thing. And that's true. You can. But isn't it a whole lot better when you have somebody on your side, on your sales team? I mean, it's like, I sit there and I think to myself, I get it. There's a numbers issue here. There's supply and demand. In Los Angeles alone, in the Union alone, there are tens of thousands, nearly 100,000 people who self-identify and pay their dues every year as a union actor. Most of them don't have an agent. And the reason is there are a limited number of agents with a limited number of spots on their roster. And you have to do something that makes them go, oh yeah, sure. I'll get on the team. I'll get on the Brian Patacca team. If you're going to put yourself out there, it's a good idea to have a path. Yeah. And when I watched people like Hopper, who came to you, and I watched him do his stuff, he overcame something that I think a lot easier than a lot of people do. A lot of people sit there and go, okay, I have to take this first step over the vestibule, over the door jamb, into this new room, and I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I'm afraid of what's waiting for me. I'm afraid of all of the things. I'm afraid I'm going to break something. I'm afraid something is going to happen. And what I tell my people is, and I just rip the Band-Aid off, you're going to fail miserably. You're going to break something. You're going to make a mess. You're going to not do everything perfectly. Yeah. But wouldn't it be easier if at the very least you had some sort of Thomas guide version of how you get to where you're going? And if you don't know what that is, Google it, kids. Yeah. Or some sort of Google Maps.
GPS, some kind of GPS to show you where you're headed.
Yes. Yeah. And so when you look at that link on your screen or in the description of our session today, and you click on that link and you go and you register for Brian's free course, what you're going to get is, number one, lots of things to do. And if I recall correctly, it's been a year, but if I recall correctly, at the very least, 3 big things not to do.
Yes.
3 very big things that could be big mistakes for you. Cool. You're going to make mistakes, but what if you made less mistakes? What if you made fewer mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So and tell me a little bit about the way you approach what to do and then also what to avoid.
Yeah. And I think that's really important to make a distinction here, David, because this is not everyone who's going to join me for the webinar, which I'm excited to see you Saturday, Monday, or Thursday of next week, is I'm not just going to be like, here's all the things that don't work. Bye. I'm clearly, like David said, I'm going to give you things to do. This is not a tips and tricks class. I'm going to give you a real entry point to the strategy to use to reach out to managers and agents. So whether or not you decide to join me inside of the course, there's tons of training inside of this free masterclass. So I hope that you'll be there to take action on this, right? Because listening is one thing. And like David said, action is where all the magic happens. So the reason why I think we start with the like lies that hold you back, the reason why it's important for us to identify those is there's such a huge mindset shift that has to happen around. And sometimes the word mindset, I think it's a little bit of a, we talk about it a little too haphazardly. So let me just dig in here. You have been raised by Rent, La Boheme, and let's see, what's the other one that's based on it? Moulin Rouge, which says all artists have to suffer or cut off their ears and have a miserable life and not make any money. And your parents need to worry about you. And only famous people make money as actors. And only when you look like this, sound like this, blah, 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 blah. This is not for me to say that there isn't more representation that we're working for inside of our industry. But what I want to be really mindful of is here, we buy those lies pretty easily. And part of why is it feels a little bit safe to say it's the big, the big man that I'm fighting against to try to make it happen in my career. And we can sometimes romanticize the idea of a career where we're not making money means you're truly being inside of your art form. And I think the reason why David exists, that's the reason why I exist, I think, is to say there is a career to be had if you put in the energy and put in the action and take the steps to work towards it. And so the lies that I like to break through, and I'll just rattle some of them off right now because they're the ones we hear the most often, is you must use a target list. You must have recent or recognizable credits. You must use a referral. You can't reach out during the strike. Those are just 4 that come up to mind right away. And someone else, some other coach somewhere will tell you, yes, you must do all the things those are the things you must do. It has been my experience with 724 actors. I had 725 show up today, who just said it, to get representation where we let go of those lies. So I'm going to use some critical race theory kind of thinking for a second is notice who's talking to you. Right? Like, who is the advice you're getting? Has that person helped 724 actors get representation? Because if they have not, maybe question the advice that you're hearing. And I say that not to put myself on a pedestal, but so that you can just empower yourself to make the decision of how you want to respond to the idea of representation. And that's, I think, where the masterclass starts to open people's minds. If I'm being honest, David, it starts to really change your mind around what are the myths that I've picked up along the way that other actors think they're giving me great advice around, but have just stuck around in here and let me stay small. And you could also pick these things up from like a teacher who once said to you, this is the way you're supposed to find an agent. And that was a very well-intentioned teacher. And it's 2023. And this is what we're seeing work now, right? That could be a while. So in those kind of myths we hear years ago or yesterday can stay very loud because there aren't as many people showing you the possible path, the steps to take. Like you described Hopper, like finally had this is what you do, then this is what you do, then this is what you do. That is pretty empowering and freeing because suddenly you don't have to go, I took my one step towards getting representation. Nothing really happened. I don't want to take another step for another 9 months. That was hard enough. I'm going to walk away from it, right? That piece of it, I think, is so important. Like I said, accountability is not a one-person job. I think it's important to have someone holding the lantern in front of you or like showing you, here's what's worked before, here's what didn't work before, so you don't waste any time or energy. Your energy and your time are too precious as an artist to waste with a path that is foolish, an fool's errand, I should say.
Here's the challenge with asking Brian a question. He will answer the question, and in the process, will spray seeds all over.
I hope they're all growing. Oh no, did you freeze?
That
okay.
You brought up the notion of questions going on like crazy. So let's talk real quickly about the strike.
Sure.
There are people who have assumed a number of things because we're on strike. I just went through this in the last couple of weeks with my registration period for VO Heroes, where people were like, well, why would I want to do this? I can't get work as a voice talent because we're on strike.
There's like so much work that voiceover talent can get right now.
I know. And there may be a little bit less if we go on strike against the animation, against the video game studios, but still, yeah, it was like, look at all the commercials that are being done, the audiobooks. Oh my God, the audiobooks are going crazy. There's a lot going on there. And I think it's part of this jump to a conclusion thing that happens when a bombshell event like the strike occurs, we think, oh, well, no agency is going to want to take on new actors. There's no way that I'm going to be able to get an agent during the strike. Is that true?
Are you asking me that question?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Slap yourself in the face, everyone. Because 100% of the people who have reached out using the method that I'm going to teach you in the masterclass have gotten agents and managers using this process during the strike.
Now, Brian,
100%, 100%.
Brian, that seems a little hard to believe. 100%. Really.
100%. Sorry, and I will tell you this: we are seeing double digits offers and meetings right now, more than we ever have before. Now we could sit here and we can make a big conspiracy about why people are getting more agents and manager meetings than ever before. And I'm sure one of the first things we would say is, oh, it's because they have more time, I guess. And then we could say, but guess what? All of it is conjecture. And I refuse to participate in conspiracy theories. I am only going to look at the data, which says 100% of the actors who have used this process during the strike have gotten multiple manager and agent meetings all over the world. So instead of going into conjecture and wasting energy on that, I would much rather have you say, cool, I'm going to let go of stories I've made up about the strike because I don't have data. I've just made them up because that's what we do when we hear headlines and stuff. I'm willing to think of things a different way. And I'm just going to use the numbers as a way to solve this for myself. So every day on our Slack channel at work, we have this channel called Cuddles. And Cuddles is where we share to each other on the team, good news we've heard. The past few weeks, it's blown up more than ever before. This person just signed. This person just got 4 offers. This person got 7 offers. They got 10 meetings, more than I've ever seen. I would screenshot these and put them on Instagram, but sometimes it feels like it's private relationships we're having with our clients, right?
Don't take that risk.
Yeah, right. So I just really want to make sure everyone can say, here's the part that I think is tricky. If I can say one more thing, David, which is stand in solidarity with the strike does not mean you must put your career on hold. In fact, it can be really sneaky to believe by putting my career on hold, I'm standing in solidarity with the strike. That is not true. It does not do anything to Disney if you decided to not get a manager right now. Right. Disney doesn't care. Nothing is going to change the negotiations because you didn't get a manager agent right now. Do not make yourself that important right now, right? Focus on the purpose, which is you need to be acting. And the other thing that I just will say, one more thing about the strike. I don't believe in silver lining the strike. I think the strike is hard and important. 2 things, right? But one thing that I do like about this, let's say the timing of the energy of the strike, I notice a lot of actors a little less FOMO anxious that they're missing out on other things right now. A little bit more of a oh, I know there's not 6,000 auditions every day that I'm missing out on, which is the story that one can tell themselves. So there's a little bit more ease, and I'm willing to take action on something in my career because I don't have this ticking clock of all that I'm missing out on. And I think that is one thing that we can lean into during the strike. So if someone's saying, go focus on your craft or go focus on the voice work, using your voice, use this time is what I would say. And I don't want to say that in a toxic positivity kind of way. I just want to say there is an opportunity for us here.
Excuse me while I Google toxic positivity. So here's the thing. First of all, you're watching this, please, if you have questions, and I know this is making you crazy in terms of questions, please put the questions in the comment below. We're going to get to those in just a second. Let's take this from the specific of the strike to the general notion of year-round periodicity, seasonality when it comes to getting agents. I've heard since I started to be trained to be an actor in the early 2000s, oh, you can't get an agent during what was then called pilot season and is now called, again, January. But is it your experience that there are certain times of the year that are always better for going after representation than other times of the year?
I have a simple answer. No. Okay, I see actors get managers and agents every day of the entire year. The 27th of December, the 4th of January. Yeah. And everyone is entitled to their opinion. So that doesn't mean that my actor who reached out on January 12th, which happens to be my birthday, that reached out on January 12th, didn't get a manager or agent say back to them, now's not a good time for you to reach out. And the next manager or agent then say to them, let's meet tomorrow. So remember, we are not reaching out to robots, thank God. We are reaching out to human beings who are entitled to whatever experience they're having at their desk on that day. The agent who says to you, today's a bad day to reach out, the next day could say to another actor, let's meet next week. So just keep in mind that like this idea, I always say like, yes, if you have the thinking of there's a special time to reach out to agents, then you should reach out on the 5th of Nevuary. Because that's usually what it means. Like, I'm going to wait till this time. I'm going to wait till that time. That timing game, let go of the timing game. I believe, this is the reverend part of me, that divine timing is going to bring you to your right manager or agent. So if we believe that, then it doesn't matter when you reach out. Now, would I send my emails on Christmas Day? Probably not. Would I send them on Thanksgiving Day? Probably not.
But other than that, more of a function of the general nature of how we use communications.
Totally.
What we do as actors and the workflow of our business.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Cool. So we've got questions. We've got answers because we've got Brian. If you find all of this fascinating, if you're in need of an agent, a manager, upgrading from what you are currently living with, getting to know more about the process in case someday you may need to pursue this, then please, the link is in the description of this event. Just slide above the video and you'll see it, or below the video. Depends on which channel you're on. Or just type in words that are hard to misspell. voheroes.com/make-agents-want-you. Now, I was considering shortening that to Maui, to MAWI, and I may do that. But for now, I want people to understand
what they're
branding.
Doing. Yes, yeah. Great.
So, wait a minute. Hold on one second. I got somebody here. Hang on. I just, as I was going to click on it to show it, a little thing popped up and said new comments, and it shoved me down to the bottom of the list.
Gotcha.
So hold on one second. Okay, here we go. Wait a minute. Wait. Yeah, it did it again. Okay. Tamir, I have a manager. Should I have a separate agent for voiceover?
Multiple.
I can certainly help you with
hundreds. I mean, David, I think you and I talk about this a lot, which is that voiceover, you can work all around the world basically and get managers and get agents in multiple markets. And I don't know if you have a different piece of advice you want to share there. I think that's
well. I mean, first of all, I want to welcome Tamir. She's one of my new pros, and she's just now learning how this stuff all works. And I think it's important to talk about real quickly one very basic difference, and that is there are voiceover agents, there are commercial agents, and there are theatrical agents and literary agents and all these other things. It's really important that you be careful. Maybe Brian will agree with me on this, maybe not. It's really important that you be careful that when your theatrical agent says, oh yeah, I'll put you up for voiceover stuff, that you not take that as the gospel, Reverend.
Yeah, no.
Because agents get into this groove. They have their contacts, they have their pathways, they have their workflows, they have their sources of breakdowns, and the sources of breakdowns for theatrical, for television and film, are very different from the sources for breakdowns for voiceover. And the agent's workflow is different. One very big difference that we'll talk about is who the gatekeeper is. So if you get a chance to jump into Make Agents Want You and you're able to take advantage of that whole thing, you may end up understanding the very big differences in what certain category of agents do and what other category of agents do. But the answer is you should absolutely have not only a separate agent for voiceover, but multiple ones. Anything else you want to say about that?
I just want to appreciate what you said. I think a lot of times an actor may say, I really want to be with someone who's across the board. And I actually don't love when an actor is represented across the board unless they're with a certain tier of agency. Tamir, I don't want you to get confused here. So I'm talking really high level, but I just want to just speak this out. What David said is like, if someone's really good at ice skating, they might not be really good at bicycle riding. Like if they're a good voiceover agent, they might not also make a great theatrical agent. And it's not because they don't have the skill, it's because of the relationship and what that workflow looks like, which is what David said. Like they have relationships with all the voiceover casting directors, and that's what they do every single day. So I have a fervent belief in finding someone who's good at that particular thing for the field you want to work in specifically.
Got it. So we've got a follow-up here from Phantom. David has said he has multiple agents. I was wondering, as someone who isn't in LA or New York City, but dreams to one day be cast as a Jedi, can a screen, TV, film actor have multiple agents?
Great question. So you can totally have multiple agents. You just want to make sure that you are checking in around what region that agent covers. So like I'm thinking of my client Dominic. He's got a Southeast agent who covers him in Atlanta and Louisiana and South Carolina and Florida and all that. He also has an agent in Los Angeles who covers him from LA and kind of the whole West Coast. He also has an agent in the Southwest who covers him for like Phoenix, that kind of area. And then he's trying to get one in New York right now, right? So very possible to have an agent. Know that agents are usually regionally covering things. Managers often will cover your whole career. That's not always the case, but oftentimes a manager is kind of the whole piece. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea there.
Yeah, and also you have a document in some cases, if you're not hip pocketed, you have a document that you can refer to that makes it very clear what their expectations are. If their expectations and that you have signed on the dotted line and agreed to are that they have you worldwide exclusive, you might want to refer to that.
Right.
Because that's factual knowledge that you can, instead of sitting there going, I wonder, I don't think my agent would care if I had another agent here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, if you like, I see a lot of people commenting. I'm loving this. Please hit the like button, hit the share button. We're getting great questions here. Let me go back to the comments real quickly. That's the one that you said. Okay. Developmental, second act of life, tips to find a rep.
Okay. I just want to say this now. I'm obsessed with people who are in their second and third act of their career as actors. They're my favorite people to work with in the world. And 100% of them have been successful using this process. Sorry, but that's the number. I'm going to keep saying it because it's the truth. Here's why I believe it's the truth. It's hard to believe because we can also be told, well, when I'm a certain age, I'm not supposed to be getting as much work or there's not as many people on TV and da-da-da. I'm thinking right now of my 74-year-old client who's now weighing 6 offers for managers in LA and managers and agents in LA. You have lived a life, you have experience, and how we can position that experience to attract in the right manager or agent is important. So what we tend to do is reduce ourselves to our receipts. What have I booked most recently? And what maybe auditions have I had, right? And so if you're only looking at your receipts, if you're only looking at what you've booked, maybe it's from a while ago, or maybe it's not feeling that sparkly anymore because it was not that big of a credit, right? To me, that is the game I don't want to play. The game that I want to play is I am more than my credits because I auditioned 100 times for every role that I didn't book, or every role that I booked. I auditioned 100 times. And in those auditions, I'm building relationships and I'm getting callbacks. And there's people in this business who probably know me. And I worked with some people who are kind of fancy in the past. And what we have to do is language that in a way. This is what we talk about a lot in the masterclass. I'll just share that with everybody. Language that in a way so that someone who has never met you before can understand more about you. Let me give you an analogy. So I went to dinner last night with my partner. He's a real foodie. We went to this like foodie place that was doing this pop-up, whatever. When you go to a restaurant and you read a menu and it's got all the words describing it, and then the server comes and you go, can you tell me a little bit more about fill in the blank, this whatever dish, or I don't understand this ingredient, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, when you reach out to a manager or agent, there is no server standing next to their computer to say, oh, did you not understand what they were saying when they were talking about that audition that they had 3 years ago that was for this fancy casting director? Sorry, I can't say anything to you to help you out with that question. So what that means is it is our job to be so explicit in the way that we reach out to managers and agents that they are left with 0 questions. That's part 1. And part 2, no room to make an assumption. Because that is what we leave space in our emails too often in the way, Richard. We leave room for the person to assume the least of an experience you had. We have to explain it, like I always say, like as if they'd never tasted broccoli before and it says broccoli on the menu. Mm-hmm. I like broccoli, so that might not work for everybody here, but just putting that out there. So that's what we're going to go talk about in the masterclass. So I just want to make sure anyone who's got that idea of like my career doesn't matter because it's been a while or I'm coming at this for later in my life, we use your past to help understand who you are. And so that the way you're explaining yourself is who am I becoming, not just who I've been. I hope that helps.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about seasonality and periodicity. Let's talk about geographically.
Okay.
If this is working here in the United States, would this work for somebody who is, say, in the UK or Canada or Well, and by the way, when Brian is talking about the masterclass in quotes, he's talking about Make Agents Want You, the free webinar that is coming up this Saturday, this Monday and Thursday.
And Thursday, next Thursday.
Yeah. So you've got 3 different times and dates, and I'll remind you via email before the last one so that you don't sit there and go, why didn't you remind me? But would this work for somebody who is not here in the United States, not running scared to death of our current political structure and our, would this work? Is this sort of generic worldwide?
Yes. So this process has worked in every single city, state, country that it's been tried. So Denmark, UK, Taiwan, Paris, London, Germany. So I'm just waiting for someone to tell me they got an agent on Tatooine, and please be that person. So right now someone in Spain is using it. So I'll give you an example. Elsa is using it, and there may be cultural differences in some of the ways that we language things. So when we're working together, we're talking about, okay, how do I make a slight adjustment for this so that it makes sense? But it has worked everywhere it's been tried. And I'm just thinking about a client. When you go to the Make Agents Want You page and you register to come to this webinar, you're going to see there's a woman who's named Elsa, I think it's Elsa. She got 30 meetings. She lives in Paris, and
Wait,
she's
stop.
Yeah?
Did you hear that, everybody? Not 3, not 13, 30.
Yeah.
And it was said as though
normal. This is every day. This is every day at my house. This is every day at my house.
This is not a big deal. She got 30 meetings, and here's some further explanation.
Yeah.
I don't want that to go by unnoticed. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So go ahead.
It happens so much in my house, I forget. Yes. Okay. So she got 30 meetings, and she was in Paris actually looking for representation in the States. So I just want to make sure, I don't know how long the gold rush of it's okay to be wherever you are and work wherever you want as an actor is going to go on. I don't know if anybody's ever going to clamp down on that. I'm so grateful that it's not happening but I want to believe that you can work anywhere that you want. So I have tons of actors who are using where they live now to get reps in other countries and other cities and states and all that. So hope that answered the question, but yes, it does work in other countries.
Great. Again, if you have questions, and all questions are about agents, managers, reps in general, finding those things. This is one of those things that I think you and I've had the conversation before. When people come to me to learn voiceover, often they will say, listen, I know you have this huge curriculum with all this crap in it. All I really need is like a demo and an agent. Can you just help me with that? And my answer has become no.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do them a disservice. I think that sometimes people, they have their ear open in acting class or at an accountability meeting or a union meeting or, some meetup somewhere, Los Angeles actors, Paducah, Kentucky stage workers, who knows? And they hear somebody say something and they think, well, they've been in the business longer than me. They must know what they're talking about.
Right.
So I'll just follow what they have to say.
Yeah.
And I just wonder about all those people that have walked down some path that leads them to like a restroom somewhere, not what they're looking for, and how much time that wastes.
Oh,
I just feel like we have a limited time and that bus may hit us. I urge you, I beg you, if you want to find an agent, if you want agents and managers to be out there pursuing opportunities for you, if you want to do some what I call jujitsu in the email that I sent out today, if you want to change the framework from I want an agent to hey, these agents want me. I want you to go to this link. Again, the link is it's free. Brian is going to share with you some of his most effective and basic techniques for doing things that don't send you down that path to the restroom, because that restroom is stinky and it's awful and you wouldn't want to be in there to do what you're supposed to do in there. This is not where you want to be.
Right.
And when I see people making that mistake of, oh, well, I heard that, I don't want people ask me, how did you get your agent? And I will say, you don't want to know how I got my agent because I don't want you to try and replicate what happened.
Wait, David, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Because that's what I think is so precious that you just said, which is a process by which someone else got an agent is often not repeatable, except the one that's helped 724 actors get agents, right? So I just really want to be mindful, listening to your friends or an acting class, their journey of getting their agent is going to sound a little bit like magic, or maybe I can try that, but you're not going to get 30 meetings by trying the way that they ended up with their agent, unless they did agent, unless like him did my program, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. But yours is a process. Yours isn't an event.
Right. It's not a mistake or magical miracle that went. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that I'm the only actor in the history of Los Angeles that ever got an agent from doing a play at a black box theater. I'm pretty sure. And it was even unbelievable to me. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're standing in front of Sacred Fools Theater. This doesn't happen. Right? This doesn't happen.
Right.
And so when people ask me that, I go, no, it doesn't matter how I got my agent. What you need is a process that is not only proven, but also constantly under inspection and being honed and refined. You know, one of the reasons that I really enjoy promoting what Brian does is because his path in terms of training people is very similar to mine. I didn't take the concepts that I did back in 2008 and simply just continue to share them for 15 years. Right. This year, last year, the pandemic, before that, ACX, all these things changed my world.
Right.
And things change in Brian's world too. And I watch him stay just so perfectly current with what things are actually happening. He has a feedback loop with his clients that, they come back to him and they say, okay, well, they said this. Interesting.
Oh, do I need to change something? Yeah. What change do I need to? And like the strike is happening right now. When the strike began, I'll be very transparent. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen when people start reaching out. Let's see what happens. And then we were delighted and surprised 100% at that point. We're all getting right. So that was like, we needed to see. And the part that you're saying is like, I get a feedback loop because I see these people every other week of what's happening and how's it going. And they're sending they're reaching out right now. This is what's happening. And, part of what I think also happens for a lot of actors is they can like really get a lot of energy into, okay, I'm going to reach out to agents and they'll take like one action. And I don't know about you and your email box, but usually I open my email. I'm like, okay, I'm going to delete 5 of these because I know they're going to email me again anyway. And then I'll look at them later. Right. And so there's a part of like, you have to remember that you're related to like an email at that point when you're reaching out. You're not related to as a human being yet. So the ability to show up with continual actions, which doesn't mean this has to be a long process and take you forever. I'm just saying that the ability to reach out more than once is a huge part of what we talk about inside of the masterclass when you're all there.
Great. Yeah. Again, questions, put them in the comments below, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. Derek says, I do audiobooks, corporate narration and ADR, and e-learning. I want to bridge into games and anime dubbing as well. Do agents help with those fields? Also, is being based in Rochester, New York bad for this? Is being based in, fill in the blank here, anywhere bad for this?
Yeah. I mean, this is a very voiceover-y kind of question. I think I want to ask for your help here, David, but I will just say like, the only way that it's bad, and I think I'm seeing Cameron asking some questions about being a local hire, and I think this will address pieces of this, which is if you have an agent in the Southeast, and let's say you live in New York City, right? And you're going to go to your Atlanta job, you're most often agreeing to be a local hire, which means you are flying yourself there. There are some SAG rules around what it means to be a local hire. I'm not a SAG officiant, so I can't talk about that. But it means most often you're agreeing to fly yourself there. But part of where I think some of this question and the conversation begins is, how much is that job paying? Is it worth me to fly myself there? Is my agent open to the idea that like that job is not one that's going to be worth flying me, so let's not have me submit a tape on it? So those nuanced conversations become part of this deepening relationship you're going to have with this rep who hopefully is by your side for a huge swath, if not the entirety of your career, that you're building this relationship together. So before you say, I can't reach out to them because I'm not going to, how about you have a conversation with a human being who's supposed to be on the other end of this line and talk about it? So for Derek, I would just, for you, David, what is your response to this? To me, it's like, yes, totally.
So voiceover is the least likely to be a geographically desirable situation. It's least likely to require for most of the jobs. Now, there are certainly some jobs where you have to be in town. If you're going to go do ADR work at Warner Brothers, you have to be here in Los Angeles. If you're going to go work for one of the Loop troops that do their work at the big studios, I'm with Barbara Harris. So when she works at Fox, you don't tell Barbara Harris, oh, you know what? I'm in Rochester. So I'll just phone it in, right? You go. And we have a follow-up question as well on this, which kind of ties in with what you said. Cameron Ford, who's also one of my pros, says, so if I have agents all over, I have to pay for my own travel and housing for projects in all these locales. Let's stop right there. Yeah. That's not necessarily true. It depends on the project. And it also depends on who you are. Now, a lot of times people are in very different places in their journey, and they're still looking for an agent. I had a moment maybe 10 years ago when I was looking for an agent, not because my agent dropped me or because I didn't have enough credits. She retired. She closed her agency. She ended up placing me with somebody who was great. I'm still shocked that I'm with APA. I just like, really? Okay. But if you have an issue where you start to make assumptions about things, you can get yourself in trouble. Let me continue with what she says. Unless I actually have a loved one who would love to have me camp in their house for a couple of months. So I would say stop for a moment and check your assumptions at the door.
Yeah.
This might be the case. It might be the case. Sure. I have a friend who has an agent in Hawaii, but the agent in Hawaii only sends them projects where they're willing, the agent is saying he's willing to fly himself here to Hawaii and be a quote local hire. This is like not being so truthful with yourself or with your production partners. Yeah. So I think the answer is it depends. It depends where you are in your journey. It depends what your relationship is with your agent. It depends what level of projects you're currently working on. There's a lot of it depends.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, remember that like a job that's going to pay you $5,000, $8,000, whatever, $3,000, and you need to be there for one day, and it's going to cost you $300 to fly there, and you're going to stay at a hotel. You're still making out at the end of the day, even if they say, no, we're not covering you. And it's the kind of thing where you can say to the agent, hey, if they know I'm flying in, is there any part of this they can cover for me? This is where you get to have those conversations. I would just, I would open yourself up to this, Cameron, to now these be very nuanced conversations instead of a blanket statement. It's not the same as like, hey, I'm never going to do nudity, right? It's like, this can be a place where you have a conversation with the agent around, let's talk about the project. Do we think it's worth me coming in for? I'm thinking about a client specifically who lives in LA, has 8 reps in Southeast. So, yeah, Atlanta, Southeast. Yeah. She had submitted a tape for a co-star. They wanted her to fly there for the callback. And I advised her, we don't fly back for co-star callbacks. Nope. They booked her in the job. She didn't have to fly back for the callback. They booked her anyway. Yeah. And it was 100% worth it. It was a good gig. It was a job that's going to have some residuals. We know we all want more residuals, but it was worth it for her to make that at the end of the day.
Sure. And we also tend to immediately make judgments based on the statement made.
Oh,
agents live for the opportunity to negotiate on your behalf. That's their job. Yeah. It's like, I love when my agent goes, let me talk to them. Let's see what happens. It's not, oh, well, oh, no.
You're going to lose this job if I even ask, is usually not an agent's response.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, they may know the situation. They may have booked other people from their stable on this particular series. Right. They may know what's going on there. Susan Skosko, whose last name rhymes with Costco,
yes,
says, if an agent says they are exclusive in PA and Ohio, should we ask them if they are exclusive for the other states?
I'm from Ohio. I'm from
Ohio.
Yeah, that's right. So I would say you could ask them. Certainly, you could say, like, hey, I'd like to be covered in New York and in Michigan as well. Do you cover those states? That's probably what that conversation would look like. If you're happy with them, because I wouldn't I don't really like them that much. Let's see if they'll cover me. Like the conversation, like maybe you want to just get an agent in Detroit. Maybe you just want to get an agent in Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia, like in New York, right? So to me, I'm like, let's get more horses in the stable. I'd rather have you get more agents if that was my choice than just have them glom onto more states if there's the opportunity to do that. This is also the kind of thing to think about what David said earlier. There's a document somewhere that says this is where we cover you and this is where we're exclusive, to take a look at that.
Yeah, and I also think that this is worded kind of oddly, Susan. I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking. If an agent says they're exclusive in PA and Ohio, should we ask them if they are exclusive in other states? It's kind of like you're inviting them to say, "Oh yes, we don't want you to go for anything in any other state." Remember, they want to have you as free as possible for their potential jobs. You know, one of the things that's kind of tough sometimes is to go to my commercial agent and say, "Hey, I booked a month. I'm not going to be available. I'm booking out for the month," you know. And then, you know, the funny thing is with voiceover, I bring my gear with me to my trailer.
Right.
And I book stuff from in front of my mirror. So you know, for me, it's an interesting situation. I would not invite the conversation with them of, "So is it okay with you if I go after stuff in Illinois and New York and stuff?" You know, you don't have to have that conversation. If they're exclusive in Ohio and Pennsylvania, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, go get an agent in Los Angeles. Go get an agent in New York. Don't, you know, this isn't a conversation that you necessarily have to have because it opens the door to something that you didn't invite.
Yeah, totally.
That's what I think.
Yay, yeah. Susan said awesome. Great, Susan. Let's get your reps.
Yeah. Oh, you're watching too, are you? Is that right?
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Okay, good. So Cameron says, "Thank you, Brian and David. So just try and get agents. All I've, but be honest about my situation."
All over, I think. Yeah.
I gotcha. I'm not local, but would travel for projects that would financially make sense for you. That's great. That's exactly.
And Cameron, wait, let's be honest. Let us pretend there is an incredible role that is in a city that is not your local space, and you're going to maybe only break even. You're not even going to make money, but you would love to play that role. Let's not take the art part out of this. I know we're talking a lot of commerce because we're talking about managers and agents, but opening yourself up in this way to these other markets might also open you up to, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to work with that actor or work with that director or be on that network. So I do think there's room for you to believe into like the growing of your resume, the growing of your creative experience through this, not just the bottom line. Of course, I want you to be walking away with green, but I just want to also, that's part of what we're also saying yes to by approaching it in this way.
But also know that also know that the currencies that you receive, the currency that you engage in this business, depending upon where you are in your journey, aren't necessarily around money. Imagine the value of having a clip from, you know, Stranger Things on your reel that somebody who's looking at you didn't know you know, where, you know, people love to pick the people that other people picked.
Yes.
Which
yes, that's right there.
Writing it down. Yeah. I'm writing it down. That's my new
yeah, it's a good one.
But the point is, you know, I worked with a student at USC when I first started doing, or at Chapman when I first started doing my work, because his look was amazing. I saw some of his other stuff that he was doing, and having that clip on my reel, I hadn't been booked on anything yet, but having that clip on my reel elevated my reel in a way that made all kinds of sense. It didn't look like, you know, something that I shot with my friends with my video camera on the weekend. Yeah. So let's see. So Dave Gibson says, "Will an agent submit me for consideration for a job if in their opinion you don't fit what the casting agent wants?"
I hope not. I hope not. Here's what it's like. So I want your agent to have discernment and choose the actors that they think are best for the role. Now, that being said, depending on the stage in your career, it might be a time to like, hey, I just need to get some more credits on my resume, submit me for everything. Let's see what sticks. Is that headshot not working? Great. We can make a change because I'm not getting called in for the right role. So I don't think an agent should be, I'm going to submit all my clients for every single job, because then the casting directors won't trust that agent because they're like, there's no discernment going on, whatever. I might as well just take any old actors I pick up off the street and see if I want to submit. Like, we want an agent who has taste to make a choice there. And David, this is I called you David. I hope that's okay because you go by Dave.
I don't. Wait, hold on. Time out.
Right.
I do not go by Dave.
No, but Dave Gibson does.
Yeah, Dave is the guy who changes your oil. I'm the guy who changes your journey.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
So what I would say around this is, in the conversation you have with an agent, your new agent or manager, you're going to make it clear, here's the kind of work that I want. And then I always think there's a second piece of it, which is, here's the kind of work that I want. And I'm not delusional. So looking at my resume, I also know that that probably means I'll need to book a little bit of this or that before we're able to get to my final destination. Or maybe I'm already there and I'm already booking things at that level. But just kind of the non-delusional piece of you saying, I want to get this kind of work, and here's what I've done so far that can back that up. So Dave, I hope that gives you some distinction here. There's also the time when you might say to an agent, look, I know they're looking for a blonde XYZ123 and I have dark hair, but I know that casting director and I think I can still submit a tape to them. Would you be willing to submit a tape to them? Because I think it might be worth it in this case. So when you like have that insider knowledge, or there's a role that you think you might be really right for, there's some nuance that can come in that conversation. So I don't want this mean to think you have to sit out every single time you think you're right for a role. Hopefully that's the kind of conversation you're having with your reps.
Yeah. And let me add some value that you didn't expect when you asked this question. And this is also something that, should you decide in the long run after you take Make Agents Want You, that you're going to join Brian in his huge, awesome course called Agent Goals, that there is a difference in the workflow between voiceover agents and theatrical agents, in that the gatekeeper position is different. And the answer to the question that you've asked is going to be very different if you're talking about voiceover. So we'll get into that in the bonus that we're going to be offering should you get into that course. It's really, really an important distinction. So hold on one second here. I just had something and it keeps scrolling because so many of you are asking questions on your social media interfaces. Hold on one second.
Which we're not mad about. We're not mad about that. We're
not mad about it whatsoever.
Yeah.
No, not mad about it whatsoever. Okay, so Sage says, when trying to get an agent or manager, does it hurt to have a not so great rep on my permanent record?
Okay, so first things first.
Oh my God.
First things first, no one is keeping a permanent record of you.
But you do have to be in the assistant principal's office on Friday at 2.
Yeah. Yes.
That's important.
No, this is a song that I sing for my actors when they're getting weird about marketing or getting weird about anything. And it goes like this. And you can sing this song to yourself the next time you find yourself getting a little self-conscious about anything that's business. No one cares. No one cares. No one cares. No one cares. No one is looking at. I wish people were paying that much attention to you, Sage, that they could remember who your reps were before. Your old reps aren't listed on your IMDb. Your old reps aren't listed on your Actors Access. Your old reps aren't on your resume. There's nowhere for anybody to know about that. Now, what I think is a good thing about having crappy reps or any kind of reps in your history is when you meet with your new reps, you get to talk about, oh, this is what kind of client I was, and this is the experience I had working with them, without throwing them under the bus. But if I'm a manager and agent and I'm working with you for the first time, Sage, how great is it for me to know, like, oh, great, I don't need to show her the way around the block. She's been a client before. I'm sorry, I assumed your pronoun there. Correct me if I'm wrong. She knows her way around the block, and I don't need to worry about this. Like, she's going to know how to, when I get to send her an audition, where to go, what's happening. Like, that history that you have with a former rep, regardless of how successful it was, tells me she knows how to ride the bicycle. She knows how to, what this is going to kind of look like.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't want to, I don't know how much time you have. I should have had this conversation with you when we were backstage. We've been on for about an hour. We have 2 minutes left in the hour. Can we go a little bit longer? Or
yes, let's do it. I love this. I love all these people that are asking great questions.
So Christopher Buckner, who is in the far Northeast, he's in not Boston, but Boston adjacent. He says, can you get a VO agent without a VO demo? And again, the way Brian answers questions very simply, no, you can't, because an agent needs tools to work with. And so the question there can be, again, more generalized. Can you get an agent without a theatrical demo?
Oh, hell yeah. Anybody who's out there being like, I can't get reps till I have a reel, you need to just cool your chops. Because the truth is, even my actors who work the most, they're acting that unless they got the tape from the TV show they were on yesterday, your acting is always better today than it was when you taped yesterday or the day before. So self-tapes have become a new entry point to share the kind of work that you do. Now, that doesn't mean if you have footage, you need to bury it and hide it from people. There is a way to position it, but I'm very selective about what kind of footage I actually will show a manager or agent, because I want them to only be falling in love with your acting, not in love with your credits. Because if an agent or manager is only falling in love with your credits, then that means I only transact in credits, which means you're going to be nervous every time you get an audition, because if you don't book that job, then maybe I'm going to drop you because you didn't book that one. And I'm not interested in attracting a manager or agent who is only looking at you as a race car. Did you win the race? Did you win the race? Did you win the race? Right? I did not enunciate very well there, but you get what I'm saying. So,
I do.
Right. So to me, it's important to, go out and get work and try to build a reel if you have a reel. But I want to make sure everyone is very clear. You do not need a reel to make what I'm going to teach you at the masterclass work to reach out to managers and agents.
So that masterclass again is Make Agents Want You. And you can get there by clicking on the link in the description above or below or adjacent or around the corner from this video, wherever it is, there's a link. It's voheroes.com/make-agents-want-you. And when you go there, you're going to get 3 different options. There's a one this Saturday as we record this. There's one on Monday. There are different times of the day. There's one the following Thursday. And I get the lovely joy. I don't know, maybe you just couldn't get anybody else to introduce you. I'm not sure. But I get the lovely joy of being there for all 3 of those and introducing Brian, including, I think Saturdays is at 9 in the morning.
Yeah, are you going to do that one for me?
God-awful time of the morning are you doing this for?
Wait, I have to tell you, just so everyone knows, Saturday morning is always the off-the-charts one, in case anybody can make it Saturday. People are so pumped to be there on a Saturday morning. I don't get it, but it is the most pumped crowd every time.
Okay, if you say so. But anyway, you have 3 choices. And if you have any questions about this, reach out to Brian's team, reach out to me. I had people who asked me questions today about the process. What is this all about? Everybody's saying thank you. Thank you very much. Wait a minute. Hold on. For the hand pink waving.
It might have been an emoji that got thrown off.
Oh, got converted?
Yes.
Okay. God, I hate that. I hate this.
Yes.
I hate what Elon Musk has done to social media. It's terrible. I'm listening to the audiobook right now of the new Elon Musk biography.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
It's well done.
Okay.
But man, is he a weirdo. All right. So let's see what happened. I'll be there on Saturday with bells on and
bring your cuppa. Bring your cuppa. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
So I just there was one question that I wanted to share before we go that was on this, and I want to find it because it's kind of a nice one to wrap up with. Where is it? Hang on one second. I will find it.
You will.
Thank you. Do you want to tell people anything more about
it?
Yeah.
So everyone, if when you enroll in the masterclass, it's about an hour long, but do know that I will stay till every single question is answered. So I already told my partner, you're not going to see me till 11 a.m. on Saturday, because what I know is the training sparks a lot of ways to take action. And so the point of me being there for the Q&A isn't just like, let's kill some time. It's actually so that anything that's come up in the training that you want to take action on or move on, you've got what you need to do that. So I know that you have a very individual and specific and unique career. And so what I'm teaching will need to be applicable to who you've been in this career so far. So know that the reason I'm teaching it live is so we get that special time together so that you can take action right away.
Yeah. All right. I can't find it. It was fine.
All right.
We covered the waterfront here. I mean, listen, every time I get together with you, I think that people have a lot of hope marketing in their vessels. And I hope that this is the kind of thing that removes that container full of hope and instead replaces it with a container filled with strategies and tactics. Because you can sit there and hope that the world is going to serve you up exactly what you want. And maybe it will. Maybe it will. But wouldn't it be nicer to have that set of techniques and skills that you didn't have before that you can apply for both theatrical and commercial and for voiceover in this session? Please choose to click on the link. Make Agents Want You is the name of the masterclass that Brian is teaching. 3 different dates this coming Saturday, Monday, and Thursday. And the link is voheroes.com/make-agents-want-you. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I can't wait to see you.
Yeah, and if you're watching this on replay, again, make sure you tag Brian. We'll still tag me as well. We'll still watch for questions coming in. Yeah. I appreciate it so much having you guys here. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.